Hey everyone, it's Lainey. Welcome back to another card video, and welcome if you're new. I am bringing back in the Peony Celebration today. I've made 2 cards with this die set. This is relatively new from Spellbinders, and if you didn't catch the other 2 videos, they're very different. I will link them down below for you. It's just 2 dies. It's got the very detailed die and then the shadow layer die. And from the other 2 cards that I've made, I've had some extra pieces. So I've got 2 of the outlines here, and all the little pieces have been used for something else. So I thought I would bring these in today just to use them up. So first things first, I'm going to do some ink blending. I'm going to be using Tim Holtz today. And I love this color combination. It reminds me of pink lemonade. It's Saltwater Taffy and Mustard Seed. And I am just going to do a little ink blending on my 110-pound cardstock. I'm using this as my card panel, and then we will build up our panel from there. So I'm going to start with the pink. And these brushes are very inexpensive blending brushes from Amazon. I just ordered my 2nd set for my Concord and 9th inks. And they're pretty good. They are pretty good. I have quite a bit of supplies coming, and once the last box arrives, probably next week it'll probably be a little haul and card video, just a twofer. I've been really collecting some more card supplies lately, even though I probably shouldn't, because I have so much that I haven't used, unfortunately. Sometimes I'm just not motivated, or motivated is not a good word. I'm not inspired. So, you know, I see new releases or see things on sale, and I just have to snag it. Alright, so I wanted to go up a little bit higher, but my Saltwater Taffy is kind of drying out. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab my mustard seed, and I'm going to bring in a little scrap paper here, because this is very pigmented and the pad is so saturated. So I'm going to start up at the top, kind of starting on my glass mat, and then with a very light hand blending it onto the cardstock. And that's just to ensure that it doesn't come in too heavy. Alrighty, so I brightened it up a little bit more to try to get some of that blotchiness out. So it really created, those 2 colors really created a really pretty orange. So I'm going to leave it alone, and now I need to put those up, and let me get bringing a spray bottle in. This is soapy water. I have another one that's just plain water, and I prefer to use that, but this will be fine. Spraying my glass mat, and then going to clean it off, and then I'm going to wash my hands as well so I don't transfer any of that ink on other parts of the card. Alright, so the panel is done for right now, and I have these 2 pieces. I like how they are opposite from each other in the terms of how the bigger flower is on the outside and the smaller flower is in the middle, and how this one is reversed and the smaller part of the flower will kind of be cut off of the panel. So I'm going to position them something like this, and then I want to cut my panel down to allow a little margin when we adhere this to the card base. For these pieces, I'm going to try to use my spray adhesive. I haven't used this in a while, so I'm going to have to do this away from the camera because it has a lot of fumes and I don't want it to mess up my camera or get all over my desk. So let me do this real quick and I'll be right back. And let's see how we were going to do this. Let's turn this like so. I think they're supposed to be reversed. It's okay. Let me get a stamping block and help this get stuck down. And the other one, the second one's probably drying. I'm probably gonna have to spray that one again. Rats, let's see. Ooh, no, it is still sticky. Okay, and once again, let's bring in the stamping block and get this pressed down. I'm gonna turn it over so I don't spread that adhesive all over the place. I wanted to use the spray adhesive because the liquid glue would seep out a little bit and then you would see that residue on the ink blending portion. And I didn't want that shininess for the viewers. So just eliminated the liquid glue here and used the spray adhesive. Okay, so it's pretty much stuck down. And I'm gonna let this dry and then I will run it through my paper trimmer. I don't want to put it in my paper trimmer right now because I don't want the blade to get all sticky and gunky. So I'm just gonna let this set for a couple of minutes to make sure that it's really dry. Still need to wait a little bit for this to kind of dry because it's still quite sticky. So I am going to work efficiently and move on to the next step. I pulled two Concord and Ninth colors. This is Sherbet and Nectar. And I want to use one of these for the sentiment. I just didn't know which color. I did pull the pink lemonade and that wasn't the right color, but now that these are here, I'm not sure how I like this, but you know what, let me pull a few more colors just to be sure because I'm not 100% about these two. Okay, so here's Grapefruit. So Grapefruit definitely looks better than the Sherbet or the Nectar. So maybe this one, but I also have the new 2024 colors from Concord and Ninth, and I really like this Creamsicle. That matches pretty well too. You know, I think it's Grapefruit. I think that that matches well, and then I want to use white embossing powder. So I think the white will stand out a bit more on this color versus the Creamsicle. All right, so it's Grapefruit for the win, and I've got these two sentiment stamps with the coordinating dies from Amazon. They're very similar. A lot of them say the same thing. There's just a different font or arranged differently. All right, so I'm going to go in a different direction because I want to keep it in the portrait orientation, and I'm going to choose So Happy to Hear of Your Exciting News. Congratulations. I think that that one is a good size. So let's go ahead and get this prepped and embossed. All right, gonna use my mini Misty here and use my anti-static powder and align my stamp. Move my magnet down here, making sure it is in the corner, snug. Let's see if that's straight. It seems to be. So now I'm going to bring in my Versamark and stamp this up. I really need to start ordering more sentiments that have the coordinating dies. I feel like that is what I really struggle with because I just don't have very many to choose from. Okay, making sure that's in the corner. I'm really pressing down on the end because that magnet can interfere with the impression. But that looks pretty good. And I'm going to use Super Fine Detail in white. Sprinkle it all over that stamp. And I like to let it set for a moment. And then tap off the excess. Let's try to get that one more time, see if it'll build it up a little bit more. Okay. Moving that aside, and let me put my embossing powder back in the container before I get my heat gun out because I don't want this blowing around everywhere. All right, bringing in my heat gun. It has 2 settings, low and high. I'm going to put it on high and let this heat up for a few seconds, and then once it's hot, then I will apply it to my paper and let the embossing powder melt. Turned out so nice. It is so clean. Look at that. All right, making sure it is aligned and positioned. And before I run this through my Platinum 6, I'm going to go ahead and tape it down because I don't want anything to shift. I want my sentiment to be aligned and centered. I don't want anything to be crooked. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and run this through and get this cut out. And let's pop the sentiment out. And that turned out so nice. All right, so going to bring in my paper trimmer here, and this is an A2 size, so it is measured at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm not 100% sure on how much I want to cut this down. I'm first going to remove the excess peony, and then once that's removed, then I can maybe decide on how much margin I want. All right, so now that I've got the excess trimmed off most of the sides, I can really line this up. So this is a little shy, actually. It's not quite 5 1/2. So I'm gonna cut it at 5 1/4. Let's see how that turns out. All right, and then let's trim down the side, let's see. So this is measuring at 4 1/4. I'm going to take off 1/8 of an inch on both sides. So now it is measuring 4 by 5 1/4. So let me bring in my card base and see if I like how that visually looks, especially with the peonies. Oh, that is perfect. All right, so that is the final dimensions. Now that this is cut down, I want to build this up. So I'm going to bring in some thick foam tape here. This is from Hobby Lobby, and I am not going to space these out very much. I'm going to keep them quite close together, and I like to keep them closer together so there's no divots. I don't know if it's just me, or, you know, I understand that it's paper, but I find that it starts to divot in between those spaces, and I do not like how that looks. So in case it gets kind of beat up in the mail, or I'm a little rough on it, this just makes it more sturdy and looking nice. So for the last strip, I had to cut it down a little bit, trim it off because it was too wide. And I've got a little excess. It's quite a little bit too long. And for the remaining pieces, I just stick them back on the roll and use them for another project. So I'm going to go ahead and open my card base here and magnetize it down and remove the strips. All right, so let's stick this down. I want the yellow at the top. All right, and that's perfect. I do think that I'm going to have to get a little bit of the liquid glue here and apply a little bit underneath some of these leaves because they are not sticking. Ooh, I bent the pen. Just a little bit of glue, and I'm going to hold it down until it's adhered, and just repeat the process on all those little pieces that need a little bit more help. All right, so it's all glued down and we have our sentiment, and the color works perfect. I think I want to pop this up as well. So I pulled some really thin foam adhesive, and this is from Dollar Tree. This is the thinnest of the 3. It comes in a 3-pack. So I'm gonna remove the strips and get this adhered. Man, I tell you, today is not my day. It started raining really hard, and now they are working on the roads because it's all like gravel and it just rained. So they're smoothing it out. So I've just had to stop so many times during the making of this card. So I'm almost done, but talk about just, it's frustrating and kind of discouraging. All right, so what do you think? How beautiful are those colors? It's totally pink lemonade, perfect for going into the summer season. I absolutely love the color combination. So lastly, I pulled some embellishments. I have these really pretty kind of like iridescent colors, and I pulled these because of the pink. So let's try looking at some of these and see, and if not, then I'll go with the gold. The only thing I don't like about these is that the small, medium, and large, like the medium is really, really large. But I love how it matches with the pink, the Saltwater Taffy. And then it'll also go really well, the iridescent part will go really well with the mustard seed, because when the light hits it, you know, it's got a little bit of yellow there as well. All right, so we've got 2. Let's pull a medium. I feel like it's gonna be way too big, but that one doesn't have much adhesion on it. Well, I'm gonna just place it down and see what I think, and I think I like that. Should we just do 3 just because they're super large? I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna do something different, and I'm saying that I'm doing something different because my go-to is smaller embellishments. So I bought these for a reason. They match really well. They're just a little large, but we'll make it work. Pressing the rest of them down, and I really have to stand things up for a better visual, but I like it. I think it matches perfectly, and I love the iridescent feel because all of this is really matte. All right, and so that's it. That is the finished card. Very simple, using leftover scraps. 3rd time I've used this Peony Celebration die set from Spellbinders. Definitely stretching my supplies, and I hope that that inspires you to do the same. Please give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and remember to check the description box down below. I will link everything that I used today. And follow me on Instagram. I've got 2 Instagrams. One is the Crafted by Lucas, and the other one is my personal Instagram, which is more behind the scenes. So those will be in the description box as well. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in next week's card video. Bye, everyone.